Now we're on to part 2 of the Christmas cake recipe, which is to marzipan and ice it. So hopefully you've made the cake using the recipe on my blog at www.howtomakecakes.co.uk. You've got the cake, it's been stored, and now it's time to marzipan and ice it. So in order to marzipan it, I have just got some ready rolled marzipan. Now on the Battenberg cake that I made on my site, there is a recipe to make your own marzipan if you want to. But at this time of year, there's lots of this ready rolled marzipan, which is really easy, makes the job a whole lot easier than making it. So what we're going to do is we just need to put a layer of apricot jam over the cake before we put the marzipan on. So a couple of tablespoons of a couple of tablespoons of apricot jam, and I'm just going to warm it in the microwave and then pass it through a sieve, and then you have a really nice clear consistency to put over it that won't have any lumps in it. So put it in the microwave for about 20 seconds just to warm it up, and then we'll just put it through the sieve. So once you've warmed it, just pour it through the sieve and then get the spoon and just push it through. And then you're left with a nice fine liquid to use on the cake. All the lumps stay in the sieve. So then what you need is just a pastry brush and dip it in and then put it all over the cake, both on the top and on the sides. So once that's all covered, we need to get our marzipan and put it on the cake. I like to just put a little bit of icing sugar on it just to stop it being quite so sticky, because it will stick to the cake with the jam. Now in these ready rolled things there's a little tube in there, but if you don't have that, just use a rolling pin and sort of wrap your marzipan on it to lift it up and put it on the cake, trying to get it as central as you can. And then what we need to do is try and cover all of the cake with this marzipan. So put it on, put it down the sides, and then we'll go around and slowly shape it onto the cake. So what you need to do is just go down the sides so it's right to the bottom, and then we'll cut it in a bit. And then keep moving the folds and flattening it out so it's all going to be nice and smooth. Every so often we'll just cut a bit of marzipan out so that it actually shapes onto the cake properly. Every so often, if the marzipan's getting sticky, just put a bit of icing sugar on your hands. It helps just to keep it smooth. And then what you'll do, you'll get to the stage where you've got a fold that you need to cut. So fold it out there so it's smooth on both sides, and then just cut that fold out, and then we'll smooth the marzipan back together again. So you cut that out and then just fold those two bits back in and keep smoothing it down. There is a tool you can get. This is really called an icing smoother, but actually it just works that you keep rubbing the cake with it and rubbing the sides, and it helps smooth it all down. And it is quite useful actually. And you'll see if you've got any little gaps, it will just cover it over, or where there's been a join, if you keep rubbing with that, then the join disappears. I mean, you can just use your hands, but it's quite a nifty tool if you have one. So keep going round and then fill in any gaps, and then we'll just trim the bottom in a... So if you have excess at the bottom, as we have here, we just then trim this off with a sharp knife so that it sits nicely on the stand. Okay, so now for the icing. Now obviously there are various ways to ice a Christmas cake. You could just go and buy some fondant icing in a roll, very similar to the marzipan, and do the same thing to cover it. I personally prefer royal icing, which is the icing that goes harder. It's not the soft icing, it's a nice hard icing. And again, there are then two ways in which to make this. The usual recipe is using egg whites, but using egg whites which are raw is always a risk of salmonella, and therefore a lot of people don't like to use it. I'm going to put a recipe for both using egg whites on the blog and for using this, which is meringue powder, which it can be used instead of egg whites. So it's basically dried egg whites mixed with various other things, and it's a good substitute for not using egg whites, particularly if anyone's pregnant that's going to be eating the cake. You shouldn't have raw egg in it. So there are two recipes. We're going to use the recipe using meringue powder. So what we need is, I have 500 grams of icing sugar, which I put through the sieve in that bowl already. Then I have 3 tablespoons of the meringue powder. You need about between 120 and 180 millilitres of warm water. So I've got 180 in there, and then we'll see how much we need. And then some recipes suggest a bit of lemon juice, some recipes suggest a bit of vanilla essence. So I'm actually going to have a teaspoon of mixed, mainly lemon juice, but a couple of drops of vanilla essence because I think that's quite nice. So the first thing to do is add the meringue powder into the icing sugar, and we'll just mix that all together by hand. So mix that together, and then I'm just going to do my teaspoon of lemon juice and vanilla essence and add it to the water. So put some lemon juice in, a couple of drops of vanilla essence, not very much, and then add that into the water. And then what we're going to do is mix the two together, and I'm going to start off doing it with a spoon. You can use an electric whisk, it just gets a bit dusty and a bit messy. So pour most of the water in, and then we'll start to mix that together. So once you get it to a reasonable consistency and you've got a lot of the icing sugar mixed in, it's then better to use a whisk, because you need to keep it whisked for a while on a high speed. So add the whisk, high speed, for a couple of minutes. So once you've been beating it for a while, you'll see the idea is to get it to sort of soft peaks like that. And you'll see that it's become a lot more glossy, a lot more meringue-like. Basically the egg whites have turned it into a sort of meringue. And it's, you know, nice and thick consistency like that. Now you have to work with it fairly quickly because it will harden. So as soon as it's done, we'll then start putting it on the cake. So what we'll do is we'll put the icing on the top first and then go around the side. So to spread it on, I'll use a palette knife like this, which just makes it easier. I normally have just a glass of warm water there, so you can just dip it in and it helps the icing not stick to the palette knife. So first of all, get some and put it on the top, and then we'll spread that out over the top like this. And the thickness is really dependent on your personal preference, and what I'm going to do is put it on smoothly, and then you can add another layer and sort of add a sort of snowy effect or whatever you want to do. So put it on the top, then we'll get some more and start adding it around the sides. So once you've gone all the way around with the cake, it's then your choice as to how you finish off the cake. You could smooth this out completely and have a nice smooth finish, and then you could pipe on the top, you could put your own decorations on the top, you could make it really smooth around the outside, you could make some little peaks on the top by just doing this and sort of having that sort of effect. Personally, I like it just looking a bit uneven, all mixed like this, so you've got an uneven surface. And then I've actually got a bit of silver glitter, edible silver glitter, which I just sprinkle on the top, and then you might want to put a Happy Christmas thing on there, or whatever you want to do. So just finish off the cake, keep going, it starts to set, so keep going until you've got it to how you like it, and that's your Christmas cake. So there we have our finished Christmas cake, ready to do more if you want to do more, or to leave it looking just like that. Don't forget the full recipe is on my blog at www.howtomakecakes.co.uk.